Hey, I'm Sam,
I'm Gray.
and today we're talking about Warfare. I was going to say Alex Garland's Warfare, but it's Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza's
Yeah.
Warfare. This is going to be a review, a discussion, and an analysis for all the people who are refusing to analyze this film. Because just like with Civil War, people are refusing to engage with Alex Garland's latest couple of movies on any sort of intellectual level.
Yeah.
Which is like especially strange, I think, for who Garland is as a filmmaker and as a writer, because his movies have always been so intellectual.
Yeah.
Like you have to, interpret them to some degree. Yeah, and people are refusing to. So we're here to do that for them and say why they're wrong about it. This video probably has some incendiary title like "You're wrong about warfare."
Yeah, we're gonna try to, because it's so easy to, like, as soon as Civil War came out, anything positive you said about it, like, oh, it's actually good, people were just immediately mad at you.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. But yeah, I do agree. Like, he has been like that since as far back as I can remember.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand where the point was.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think for a lot of people it was Men, which I don't understand because I just think that's a great horror film.
It was so fun.
Yeah, but then more people with Civil War, and then Warfare is kind of like, it's not like a sequel, and it's not even like Civil War is fictional, and Warfare is like autobiographical, so more real.
Right.
So it's not really but it is kind of a two-hander in a sense, because it's made back-to-back. Ray Mendoza, Garland's co-writer and co-director on Warfare, was his like military advisor on
Right.
Civil War, so they worked together on that. They got to know each other there. Mendoza probably like described this situation to Garland on set or something, or in the green room or whatever.
Somewhere.
And then Garland was like, "Oh, that sounds like it could make an interesting
Yeah.
90-minute film." And the whole thing is it's all based on memory.
Persistently using that both in the promotional stuff of it and just
Yeah.
the beginning of the movie. And yeah, like throughout the whole thing, you just keep being reminded. Well, not throughout the whole thing, but the beginning and then the end.
Yeah,
Pretty
it is
well,
within
yeah.
the film itself. It's not purely a marketing thing.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, like, I guess first we'll just very briefly set up, like, the plot of this movie, because it's really simple. On a plot level, there's not that much to it as far as, like, the actual events that happen.
Yeah.
It's just a group of U.S. soldiers, Navy SEALs, right?
I think so.
Yeah, they're the most that we learn about their mission is that they're, like, a support unit for some other reconnaissance mission that's going on that we don't know anything about.
Yeah.
We don't know why they're there, neither do they, and that is so crucial to what this film is saying.
Mm-hmm.
And all the reviews I keep seeing are people saying that's a negative.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
It's like the most frustrating way to misinterpret a movie, or like refuse to interpret a movie.
Yeah.
Because it feels like every negative review I see for it is somebody saying, "This film said nothing," and then in the next sentence they say, "We didn't even know what they were there for."
Right.
And it's like you just answered your first point of it's not saying anything, because it is. That's crucial to it. Like, you're so close.
Mm-hmm.
Just ask why. Follow that thread a little bit further.
Yeah, they did the same exact thing with Civil War.
Yeah.
Where it was, I feel like the marketing was a huge problem for that and getting people's expectations at a certain level or at a certain point. But they would do that same thing of like, this movie had nothing to say. It's Alex Garland trying to be apolitical.
Yeah,
but
which
then
is so annoying.
yeah, and then they would list things that were completely political, but then
Yeah.
they wouldn't engage with it past that. Like, they might have brought up, the main thing of the journalism, but then they would bring up like, oh, why are California and Texas? Why do they have like something going
Right.
on there? And it's like, can you think about it?
Yeah, think about it a little bit.
All the different things that can unite people during like political like motivations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it made sense when you thought about it.
There's like so many different ways it makes sense, and the film doesn't spell it out, leaving it open to interpretation in a way.
Yeah.
Like, it could just be, oh, those are the two most populous states. It could be, oh, we're in an alternate reality where things are different.
Yeah.
It could just be people thinking that Los Angeles represents all of California as like a blue haven when most of California is like deep red, just like
Yeah.
Texas is. And California and Texas are the two states that have like made the most motion to secede from the U.S. in real life already.
That's true. Yeah, no, it's exactly it that way.
Yeah.
Like, the conservative nature of California is very downplayed, especially for liberals. Because, even in the recent elections last year, everyone went, I wonder how they managed to keep free labor from prison.
Right, yeah.
And they didn't vote it out, and it's slavery.
But okay, circle back to warfare. Yeah, so the plot is basically just these soldiers, they hold up in a house. That's it.
Yeah, they're camping there for
Yeah,
that's it.
they go there in the middle of the night. They essentially take the family that lives there hostage, or it's kind of two families.
Yeah, they
One family.
traumatize the hell out
Yeah.
of them. Because it's not a typical hostage situation, but they are breaking into their home and being like, you can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Which is
really-
also very crucial to the film's
Yeah.
social commentary, which we'll get into a little bit later on. This is going to be so hard to talk about without getting into spoiler stuff.
Yeah,
So
how are we
we'll
gonna
give you a
handle
spoiler warning when we get into it.
Okay.
I guess the only other thing we'll say plot-wise is just that they're holding up in this house, doing nothing really, just kind of killing time.
Yeah.
Eventually, a grenade comes through the window.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the movie is it's kind of like an old school siege film, but it's not only presented as such. It's kind of just like a real-time recounting of an attack from within, and we only see it from the U.S. soldiers.
Right, and it
point
also
of view.
takes a very long time.
Yeah.
It's a very you wouldn't expect a 90-minute film, round about 90 minutes,
Yeah.
where it's such a slow burn in the first
It really
half
is.
at least.
They make you wait for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it pays off to me at least, and I know to
Absolutely,
you.
yeah. Now, I will say one area that I think you could fairly criticize it is that slow burn part. I think it is slower than it needs to be. I did kind of suspect that because the movie is 90 minutes on the dot, almost it does feel a little bit like padding to reach feature length.
Yeah.
A little bit, if we're being blunt. There is important stuff being done there, but that space could have been better utilized for character development or for setting up even just the geometry of the house.
That I agree
Things
with.
like that
yeah.
for later on. But at the same time, it is building tension, and the distance we are kept at from these characters, that's very intentional.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say because you brought up character development. I think it's very good that they don't get into it. They could have maybe other characters that weren't the main. The main soldiers were following around. I don't know. You see how immature these guys are.
Yeah.
And then you
It's
see
the first thing you learn about them.
Yeah. Can I say what the first shot is?
Oh, yeah.
It's a woman's ass.
Yeah.
It's
Immediately, yeah.
It's just one of those. What is it? A late '90s
It's one of those
workout.
workout things. It's
the
like
substance.
the substance is an outtake from the substance. Yeah.
And they're going crazy.
Yeah.
Which it's these guys got shipped out here and they're young
Yeah.
men, so it's duh.
It sets up
they're
their
immature as hell.
immaturity, yeah,
Mhm.
and how their mentality is not taking things seriously.
Yeah, even on the way to
Yeah.
where they're going to set
They're
up,
joking
they're
around.
making those movements.
They're air humping and dancing and stuff while they're on the street with their gear on their way to break into.
Yeah.
They're in formation. They're waiting to move in sequence, and they're there humping the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Immediately I was just going, I know people are gonna want to say this is being sympathetic to the soldiers, but we're already seeing them being such dumbasses. With just, they get the death machines in their hands from the government, and they're just humping, it's ridiculous.
And I think it goes back to that thing of a lot of audiences, when a story is from their perspective, it's people forgot the concept of one, an anti-hero, or two, just the fact that a protagonist doesn't have to be a good person. Beyond outside the anti-hero thing. Because I kept thinking about how Dragged Across Concrete, how people think that the movie is endorsing the racism of the police. It's no, we're seeing a character who's a police officer being racist. Do you not see the social commentary there?
They don't do they realize propaganda is that's the term, right? It never really shows them being racist. It doesn't, it paints them as the heroes.
Oh yeah, you'll never see that on
no.
CSI or Law and Order or whatever.
They don't want to
never.
admit it.
Yeah.
Never. Maybe there's definitely instances where it accidentally gets shown in some way in some
Right.
movies,
Yeah, yeah.
But really overall, they want to pretend it's not a problem. They don't want to acknowledge that there's racism and all this different factors of imperialism. So yeah, when we were getting out of there and reading other people's reviews and people were saying like how empathetic it was, I was like, those guys are stupid.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I feel bad for just, you know, the way that the military takes advantage of people.
That's the thing. Yeah, there is
Yeah.
empathy towards these soldiers, but it's not
But not in
condoning
that
their
way.
actions.
No,
It's
yeah.
not condoning their actions, and it's especially not condoning the actions of like the machine that recruited these immature young guys out of high school who like didn't know any
Yeah,
better, or that
exactly.
thing of the like poverty thing
Yes.
where they specifically prey on like 17, 18-year-old poor boys.
Yeah.
They go, oh, we'll pay for your college if you go on a tour, or just anything. We'll give you a better life. We'll get you out of whatever
Yeah.
situation you're in. So it has some amount of empathy towards them in that sense, but not at all towards what they're doing. Or so like the exercise video and them like, you know, clamoring over it and the air
Yeah.
humping and all that stuff. That sets up their immaturity and like the mindset that they're bringing into this warfare, I honestly, I feel like even the title calling it warfare is like tongue in cheek.
It is.
Because they're not engaged in warfare. It's a different kind of thing going on.
Yeah, because it's also, and I brought this up before somewhere, I might have just talked to you about it, but the thing we see right before the title card is that photograph of that young Iraqi boy. That's just, I think he was on that street, right? That's kind of how
I
they
think
were.
so.
But yeah, they show this young boy who's smiling for the camera and he's really happy despite everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And then immediately cut to the word warfare.
Yeah.
That's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Like, you don't, that's those two things side by side, it's already telling you what it's trying to say.
Yeah.
In a way. Like, it's setting it up very well.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as that happened, I remember saying to you, like, I'm so, like, I was relieved
Yeah.
because I was hoping so much that it wasn't gonna backfire. The hope
Yeah.
that Alex Garland was gonna stick on.
Oh yeah, because like
Yeah.
people were right to go into this skeptical.
Yeah,
like,
it was weird.
Because we went in skeptical too. We both went in thinking, oh, we hope that he's like subverting expectations here.
Yeah.
Because like you and I, we've liked Garland's other films. We had like more faith in him than I guess some people, like people who already turned on him from Civil
Yeah,
War.
yeah.
But we were going in like cautiously optimistic. Because a film like Warfare, you need to think about the film a little bit more because it's not what it appears to be. Like, you can't judge this book by its cover.
Yeah.
In this very particular instance. And it's all like purposeful misdirection.
Yeah, and I was gonna bring up very briefly because it could easily go down a whole nother train of thought. But when we first heard about this movie and first saw the trailer, I remember going, "Oh, you just showed me like Spec Ops: The Line," and I was like, which is still totally different than what we ended up seeing. But it was like that case of
it is subversive.
setting, yeah, it sets up your expectations. You're getting a war film, and you know you're expecting it to have you empathize and sympathize with the soldiers.
Yeah.
But just like the video game there, like
the social commentary in here, I think it's very clear, but it is subtle, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I hesitate to even say that because you really don't have to like analyze it that much. You just need to think about it like a little bit. You need to not go in with like blinders on. You need to go like not locked into your preconceived notions. Let's talk a little bit more just about like the film craft, and then we'll get into spoilers.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Since this film's mostly one location, it's like interior and exterior of this one house, and then like where they start and then move from or whatever. But that doesn't really. It's like one shot. You know?
Yeah.
So the locations are very important, and they do a really. They focus extensively on the street outside. And that's when the restraint that Garland is employing in this direction became apparent like right away. Those early shots are composed like a photo, like someone was doing like a still photograph of the street, and the soldiers are just there. Yeah. And it has like the same framing like as they round the corner. It's got this cool like 90-degree turn to the camera. And there's like tons of headroom. He's framing in those telephone poles. He's framing the place, and the U.S. soldiers are like secondary.
Yeah.
They like happen to be there. I think that's part of it. But I think another big part of it is he's setting up a really strong contrast for the end of the film when all this like chaos has happened and the place is destroyed. It's like we see the place as it is, and then the soldiers enter, and then we see the devastation by the end of the film.
Yeah.
So you get like a really crystal clear. It's funny. It's like Gone Girl, whatever, where you compare the beginning to the ending.
Yeah,
it's
I was
like,
about to bring
it's like
something
mirrored
like
in
that
that way, and then like just continuing off of like the restraint in that. I wanted to say that that continues throughout the whole film. Like typically in a once like the chaotic stuff starts happening in the latter half of the film, it's like you would expect like shaky cam, quick cuts, but there's none of that. The shots are all so there's hardly any camera movement. Like most shots are locked off. It does move every once in a while because there was a point where I was like, is every shot completely static? And then I was like, no, it is moving every once in a while, but seldomly. And always very slow, very steady, and very like calm and measured. And also you'd think if they're going with the whole like, oh, it's based on memory, the memory would be like, oh, you're in the chaos, it's all frenzy. But it takes a more like steady, almost like a neutral presentation of what's going on.
It's like the camera is steady, the sound is not.
Yeah, the sound is very, what's the word, subjective. It's very subjective on a sound level where you're going in and out of the, it's like the Saving Private Ryan thing where you get like the ringing ears and whatever. It's kind of doing
classic.
that again.
Yeah.
This did it, like, I feel like that became a cliche at some point, and this is the first movie I've seen in a while where it felt fresh again and felt effective again.
Sound-wise, I was just constantly blown away by what they were doing there, like the sound designer and whatever. Like it's just so insane
the
way
gunshots
it was.
the gunshots, the explosions, the screaming,
the screaming,
especially,
especially from that one soldier.
Well, they kind of two of them, but
you know that one guy. He's just he was just not happy.
Yeah.
He wasn't. It felt like half the movie you were hearing him like moaning or yelling or screaming.
That's not even an exaggeration.
No, it's not at all.
Really is that much.
At a certain point, I was like, oh, like, I wonder how long they're going to keep this going. And they kept at it. It was awesome. Yeah, it was insane.
And it becomes like comedic at a certain point.
It does.
Like, we won't get into the specifics at this point. Like, we're still staying spoiler free. But I will say, this film has like such like a dark sense of humor to it. And it's the kind of humor that like you can watch the whole movie and like depending on the person you might not even catch that it's like being funny at certain points. But there are like some really funny moments in here. It like borders on like slapstick comedy in a couple spots. But it's in such like a harrowing, like violent situation that you could like easily miss it. It could go right over your head because of the context of it.
Yeah, I almost forgot about some of those moments where like, you know, just something so ridiculous happens where it's like what the hell is happening? And it's just but I don't want to spoil it, so won't get too into it. But I remember being in the theater, just like I would laugh and I'd be like, "Was I supposed to?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think so." That was ridiculous.
I think so, definitely.
Yeah.
I wonder how. Well, two things. First is I wonder how much Ray Mendoza like really was involved in the directing process of this, even though he's credited. And two is I wonder if he's on board fully with the social commentary that Garland is clearly exploring. I think it might have like, I don't know. I don't know anything about Mendoza because he isn't like a filmmaker really. He's been a consultant on a bunch of other movies prior to Civil War, but he hasn't like directed or I don't think written any movie.
Yeah, I'm so curious because I know that a lot of guys who have experience in especially that war. Just a lot of them come out of it and go, that was fucking ridiculous that we went there and did that. Like when we were told one thing.
Yeah, they have hindsight.
Yeah, definitely. So it wouldn't surprise me if he was just as critical, but it also wouldn't surprise me if he wasn't.
Yeah.
Because, it could go either way.
Yeah, I could easily see this being a case of Mendoza just wants to, as realistically as possible, capture how he remembers this like day going down, this 24 hours happening.
Right.
Whereas Garland is doing the same thing, but also subtly injecting these like really incisive, really like hard-hitting social commentary nuances into that situation. I could see it being like a case of that, or they could just be on the same page.
Yeah.
And then to the other point of how much directing did he really do? Obviously, we can't know that, at least not at this point.
Yeah.
But I do wonder if it's a thing where it's like Sin City, where like Robert Rodriguez directed Sin City, but he has Frank Miller credited as a co-director because he wrote the graphic novel, and he was like had a little more creative control than the source material author usually does. So it's like it kind of gives him the credit, but it's still Rodriguez directing it.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, it's a very interesting question because, I could see it could happen so easily where, like you said, he just wants to recreate that day.
Yeah.
But in doing so and staying as realistic as possible, like he would want, you end up portraying something that you have to be extremely critical of because it's just pointing out all the flaws in the system. You know what I mean? It's like there's a couple different things we've watched over the past couple months where it's just trying to be simultaneously as realistic as possible, but it's also doing that same thing of being critical and highlighting certain moments in that.
Yeah.
Which, like, We Own This City, is that the name? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that.
Fantastic movies.
Oh, so good. I still can't believe they needed a better name.
Yeah, it's so forgettable.
It's so forgettable. Like, I feel like
I don't know if anyone even watched that thing, but it's excellent. We Own This City. It's
so
one of David
good.
Simon's show, The Wire guy, one of his miniseries.
I could not believe it.
Yeah.
Like the guy from, I always forget his name, John Bernthal.
John Bernthal.
Oh my God.
It's his best performance in that.
Ridiculous. He was awesome. But yeah, it's one of those cases where that felt like such a, you have to think about it, and it's also it feels like such a realistic portrayal of police officers and their daily thing, and then the judicial system and all that.
That's such a great thing to bring up, because the same people who interpret, or the same mindset, I should say, that would watch warfare and think either it's saying nothing, or, well, more likely that it's pro-America, it's patriotic, it's hoorah, go Marines, or whatever the fuck, because this is not that movie. But a lot of people think it is, because it kind of looks like that from the outside.
Yeah.
We Own the City is like a huge, anti-systemic racism, anti-police brutality. It's like an ACAB miniseries, ostensibly. But if you look at it from the outside, if you judged it in the same way that you judged warfare, it kind of looks like a Blue Lives Matter kind of thing. Like from the way they have the poster, and from how it's like from the perspective of the dirty cop.
Yeah.
Like you get other perspectives too, but.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. As soon as you showed me the, the title and then the opening, I was like, oh, if I didn't know any better, like, oh, this is something I could just put in front of my conservative family members.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long it would take for them, for it to hit them.
Yeah, it might not at all.
Yeah, because, a lot of people, it's that thing with, I always bring up this guy, Mark Fisher. He's really good in capitalist realism, just the consumption of media and how our media literacy within this system especially, we intake media and we have no idea what to compare our current system to, because we're just taught that it's the only thing we could ever have.
Yeah, we're taught that there's no alternative.
Yeah, no alternative. So, people will sit in front of anti-police, anti-war, anything, and they'll go, oh, this is supporting it. It's just like the way we see any kind of critique of police, capitalism, whatever, and people go, oh my God, communism looks really scary.
Right.
Like, it's insane. Like, it just happens. Like, it's right in front of their face. It couldn't get even, any more to the point at certain levels. And they just go, oh my God, this is just like communism, or like this country that I associate with authoritarian sort of socialist communist things. And time and time again. You just keep seeing it pop up.
They might catch on to it and still think the thing is endorsing that.
Yeah.
Like the We Own the City thing. Like people who are Blue Lives Matter could probably watch that show and enjoy it and just think, oh, this guy's being wrongly persecuted and blah, blah, blah. Because it's presented so realistically, and it's so earnestly acted. It's not taking cheap shots or whatever.
Right.
They could watch it and just be on his side and still enjoy the show from that. Which is what I think happened with Dragged Across Concrete, to circle back around to that.
Yeah.
Where people who, are mega shitheads who love police brutality and are super racist, they just like Mel Gibson's character and think he's the good guy.
Yeah. It's like that thing I was telling you about with, the one person I knew watching Parasite. And going, oh, it was the poor people or the parasites. And that was the thing I kept seeing from people and hearing.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty common perspective.
Yeah, and no one goes, oh, Parasite had nothing political to say. There's so many differences in how the ideas are presented, Yeah. So it does make more sense to me that people are going to be more critical of warfare opposed to some of those other ones. But it's still, in my brain, it still comes down to that.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. I think we should also acknowledge that I think part of why a lot of people are stuck on this whole it's saying nothing thing is because of how Garland conducts himself in interviews sometimes.
It's so...
You and I were talking about this off camera, where I think he's just doing the David Lynch thing.
I think he's doing a really rough job of it.
Yeah, he's not good at it. He needed to like study Lynch's playbook a little bit more than that. But I think he's trying to like not get in the way of other people interpreting things, or to not like skew. He's trying to do like the anti-Aronofsky thing, where Aronofsky just like explains the movie in interviews. Yeah. Alex Garland's trying to do the opposite of that, which is a good, intention.
Yeah.
He's just not great at like. He kind of comes up short in interviews in that regard.
And then there's also another bigger metaphor going on underneath it, which is this idea that, we are all living on this one planet with one mother who gave us life, and how do we treat her?
Mm-hmm. Elaborate on that.
No, I won't.
What do you want to tell us about Civil War?
You mean, how do I want to sell it?
That was the thing that had me rethinking my initial defense of Civil War, where, my first take was, oh, this thing hates journalists. But that's not really a correct way to frame it in my mind. Like, that was, like, the initial thing, because I was like, wow, like, they're showing how ridiculous war journalism has gotten, where people get turned into these apathetic machines.
Yeah.
But with the movie, it's like he was saying, oh, the journalists are the heroes. But I think in a way it's, him setting up this thing of everyone or most people go into this job because they want to make a difference in some way.
Right.
But a lot of them, they can't hold on to that dream. They have that realization, like Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah, that's why there's the new journalist and the seasoned, experienced journalist, because you need that contrast. You want to convey that.
Yeah, she even says it too. She was like, I thought I would make a difference, and I was wrong. Just that whole thing where he constantly says certain things, and it's like we talked about this, where if he says certain things, he's going to shut down a lot of people from seeing the movie in the first place.
That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Because these are like big budgeted movies, especially Civil War. Like, that's a huge budgeted film.
It was,
and especially after, like, I don't know how well Men did at the box office. I don't think very well. And Annihilation was a huge flop before that. So it's kind of like, if he gets another huge budget, and Civil War's a bigger budget than either of those two, I think. Maybe Annihilation was comparable. And so if Civil War is a flop with a huge budget, it's kind of like, oh, maybe he doesn't get to make another movie. So if he goes in interview, if he goes into interviews saying like basically alienating a big chunk of the audience, which, you could say that they're going to watch the movie and feel alienated anyway, but if he alienates them before they even give the movie a chance, then that's him costing his own movie, like shooting his own movie in the foot financially, and his career by extension. But also, he's missing the opportunity to potentially change some people's minds with social commentary, because that's what good social commentary can do.
Absolutely.
It's pretty rare for that to happen, but like, my favorite example of that is a short film about killing, the Krzysztof Kieslowski film.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
It's a Polish film from a time when they still had capital punishment, and this movie is all about the death penalty and capital punishment. And in direct response to that film, Poland abolished capital punishment. Anyway, so like social commentary can have that kind of power. And if you, in interviews, go around saying the message of it, people won't give it a chance. You got to kind of like sneak it in on them. I was also comparing Warfare to Killers of the Flower Moon in a different way.
Yes.
Like, some people criticize the film, and you can make an argument, but a lot of people criticize it for not being told from more the perspective of Lily Gladstone's character. The innocent Native American woman, the Osage woman who's being poisoned. Yeah. They go, oh, she's the sympathetic one. Why are we following the poisoner, the evil guy?
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, ask why. Right, like actually follow that thread of why are we seeing the white man's perspective.
Yeah.
People try to oversimplify it to, oh, it's because Scorsese's a white man, so that's who he identifies with. Right. And you can argue that. But maybe it's the fact that Scorsese's target audience is more a white man, and they will see themselves reflected in that character and might question their own actions and beliefs in a way that they wouldn't if it was following the victim rather than the perpetrator, who more closely aligns with their predetermined worldview.
Yeah.
I think there's merits to taking on a perspective that you don't actually endorse, and in not proselytizing the message of the film in interviews. So I think that's what Garland's doing, just not very effectively.
Yeah, he's very rough with it, but I think, at least the only thing worse he could do is to explain it to people. So I'm glad he's not.
Yeah, I think he's also just kind of a blunt guy.
He is very blunt, that is true.
Yeah, like I was reading a Reddit AMA he did, and most of his answers, someone would ask him a question, he'd be like, fuck no. Like, he's not very, he didn't really elaborate on anything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I really do think also just a huge part of the political dissonance is that, the marketing. I think marketing is such a huge problem anyway with movies today. But those trailers of Civil War, it was setting it up like this huge epic between liberals and Democrats, or not Democrats, but liberals and conservatives. And,
very misleading.
Yeah. And so, when you go into it, because, I just remember that part in the trailer where it's like that one guy going, God bless America.
Right. And then
Nick
what kind of
Offerman.
American are you?
Yeah,
That thing,
what kind of American?
Yeah.
And, the mass graves of people he didn't think of as American, but it wasn't saying anything political.
It's crazy that people can see a scene like that in the rest of the movie and think it's not saying anything. Like,
There are so many points, like even the beginning when they're first starting on that drive, and it's like apocalyptic as fuck.
Yeah.
And they drive under that bridge that's just like ghost stealers with corpses hanging.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. That's insane. People just had these preconceived ideas of what they were going to see for Civil War. It didn't say what they wanted, which was like,
That's the thing.
they wanted just conservatives bad, and they didn't like that there was other stuff going on where it was like they were also going into the suburbs where people were pretending nothing was going on.
Because that's such a thing.
Yeah.
And that's very much commenting. That's going more harshly on like the establishment liberal mindset than anything.
Yeah.
Which is like worth going after too,
It's gotten even more relevant over the past couple months.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much going on day to day where it's like...
Oh yeah, so many people put the blinders on.
Yeah. And we even see, those people getting taken by ICE, and like the people walking by, the neighbors, like either they're standing back and filming, which is fair enough because it's dangerous to do certain things, but then there's people that just pretend like it's not happening at all, and people don't want to acknowledge just so many things, like, because every day it's like doomsday. We've talked about how it's just so frightening to look every day because it feels like everything just keeps getting worse. But yeah, certain people and places, it's like as long as you don't look up on the rooftops where the snipers are, like, it's fine. So it just had such a powerful thing with criticizing different political just mindsets in America. It was very cool.
Yeah, I brought that same idea up of like, it didn't say what people wanted them to say. And I think the reason why it doesn't is because like, everyone knows that already. Like, it's obvious. It's too obvious to be worth making it the message of a film.
Yeah.
Like, Garland's not gonna, you'd have to be pandering to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
And like, that's a movie that's closer to saying nothing. If we say the most obvious thing that everyone already agrees with.
Absolutely, that would be saying
where's
nothing.
the excitement in that? Where's the conflict and the drama? Where's the provocation and subversion? There's nothing to it. Okay, let's get back on Warfare.
Yes.
I did want to mention the acting briefly.
Oh, yes.
And just say that
very good performances.
very good, especially considering how like little they have to work with on a character level. There's a lot on like a drama level.
Yeah.
These are like very physical roles and very like animalistic, visceral kinds of roles. And then you do still get like a good amount of character through, like especially like Will Poulter. I think he did a really good job.
Yeah, I didn't. When I first saw him in the scene where you like get introduced to his character, I was like, how the fuck am I gonna believe this guy?
Yeah.
Because I've never seen him in a role like that. He's been in a lot, and that's just so outside of the scope of normality for him. But he pulled it off.
I especially like the way he like changed his voice partway through. He gets like sandblasted, and he gets like a concussion or something at one point, and like he changes up his voice, he changes up his whole demeanor. It's like pretty subtle, and it's like really well done. Charles Melton comes in at one point, he's good. And then you have, Cosmo Jarvis is excellent in this. He's so good at this.
I mean, I want to say to people, because you still haven't seen it, but I first saw him in Calm with Horses.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah, not a great title. It was they have a different title for it, and they landed with that one. But he's fantastic, because from that point, and that was with Barry Keoghan, and it's just it's such a cool little drama, suspense kind of deal, and you could just tell immediately how good his acting was facially, like his eyes and everything like that, and then Shogun too.
But like I said, very little on a character level. It's like an experience film, and it's like really loaded on the social commentary front. That's honestly its biggest strength, which is why it's so frustrating that everyone keeps saying it's either saying nothing or it's a pro-America thing, when it's like clearly the opposite if you actually look into it. So I think at that, with that said, I think we can probably get into spoilers now.
Yeah.
So this is your spoiler warning. If you haven't seen it yet, try to go in like with an open mind that maybe it's not saying what it appears to. Maybe it is very harshly critiquing America, the U.S. military.
I don't know where we want to start, but I'd say like when shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
It just, because we mentioned the screaming guy.
Yeah.
And just the way it gets just kind of funny.
It gets funny after a while. Like, it's horrific at
It's
first.
horrific.
And that goes on for so long that it becomes funny, especially like the way how people react to him. And
like, oh my god.
There's a point where like people keep like kicking the guy, like right at his injured
Like,
leg.
let's go, bud. Like they give him a pat.
Yeah.
Too,
There's the
and
other guy who's like, you're a man, you're a tough guy. And the other guy's like, he doesn't need that. Like, it's not helping. And like that on its own is commenting on that like bravado thing, that like forced masculinity bullshit. Not to mention, it's also the kicking of thing is, I don't know, you can read into that as like, one, it's just funny, but two, it's also kind of like, I don't know, I feel like so much of what happens in this that is like bad for the soldiers it's like all self-inflicted.
Yeah.
Even though there are people like shooting at them and whatnot, it's all their own fault for being there in the first place because they have no reason to be there. Let's get to that, their reason for being there.
There's no reason.
So many people, they think that's a mistake on the movie's part. They're like,
I think it's a mistake?
Not a mistake, like a fault of the movie.
Wow.
Like, they didn't have any goal. And it's like, that is the point of the movie.
That's exactly the point.
That they're there for no good reason. They break into these people's house for no reason.
Yeah.
They're there with a sniper rifle following random civilians around for no reason.
Yeah.
All of this chaos and destruction on their end and the other end is all for no reason.
And the way it hits you, if you haven't thought of it yet, before like the end comes around, and you get that silence and calmness.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh fuck, they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's insane. 'Cause like, just, throughout the entire thing, you keep expecting there to be some payoff made like for the soldiers and, for whatever mission they're a part of. But it's just fucking nothing.
Yeah.
And that was the coolest realization, that like, oh, of course, like we did that shit for nothing.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, they accomplished nothing. They left with nothing.
Yeah.
But like, they lost people. People were injured. Like,
Yeah.
they're getting the shit kicked out of them.
Yeah, and in case we need to spell it out, like that's obviously commenting on the U.S. military's involvement in the Middle East as a whole.
Yeah.
How they're there to accomplish nothing good other than to, like, one, feed the American ego, and two, feed the American military-industrial complex.
Yeah.
And then, like, extract resources and whatever.
And to
the whole
just
war on
displace
terror.
like every civilian that lived there. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, because there's that one part near the end. It's one of the last things you hear is that woman asking why.
The mother of the family whose house they're breaking into. She's like screaming, "Why?"
Yeah, and there's no answer.
And there is no answer. Like, nobody answers because there is no answer.
Nothing.
And then also at the same time, she's saying why the father of that family is saying like, it's safe now, they're gone, right?
Yeah.
And the way the double meaning of that is so beautiful,
Really
because the like patriotic way to look at that, because the American soldiers, they want to look at it as like, oh, we're here to protect the civilians and root out Al Qaeda or root out the terrorists or whatever. So when the dad says, don't worry, they're gone, the patriotic mindset goes, oh, the American soldiers, they got rid of the terrorists. But no, he's talking about the American soldiers.
Yeah,
don't
no.
worry, the American soldiers are gone. We're safe now that the
gone.
Americans are gone.
And then
Don't worry, we're
Yeah.
safe as all of the
terrorists
walk out into the street and they flood their own street again.
Yeah, and they're all just
Now
standing
they're
there
safe.
in the the calmness after everything has settled down.
Yeah.
And they're all just kind of just staring back at each other.
Yeah.
And like they're kind of when the family was first going out. I don't know if you felt the exact same thing that I did, but there was the fear that started building where I was scared that there were still soldiers around.
Yeah, the U.S. soldiers.
Yeah, I was scared of the soldiers
Yeah.
coming back out and harming them.
Yeah, the U.S.
It's
is like
insane.
the boogeyman to all of the people in this area, which is like such a brilliant way to encapsulate like America's involvement writ large in the Middle East.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, when they're gone, a lot of people here with guns, they're not causing any trouble. It's purely the American
Yeah.
interference, them meddling in like a place that they don't belong.
Yeah, and it's such
Yeah.
a clever way of white people like us. We're sitting down and we're experiencing that last bit and we're being taught to fear American soldiers.
Yeah.
And of course we're not going to know exactly or anywhere close to the kind of fear that people have actually experienced, but it's something that a movie can do, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's, if you're going to go see a movie like this one, like you want as much of an impact as possible.
Yeah.
And that was a big fucking impact for
Oh,
me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the just to circle back to something I mentioned when we were not in the spoiler talk, that like opening stretch where it's like maybe there's some panic going on.
Right.
The other really good thing it's doing is it's really selling how they have nothing to do.
They had
Yeah, you do need some time there to convey like the boredom, the fact that like they're just fucking around.
Yeah.
They have nothing to do. They have no purpose. They're purely killing time.
Yeah, they're just fucking like there's that one guy, maybe it was two of them, who are constantly being told to keep going back downstairs or
Yeah.
something to like hold that part.
Yeah.
It's just like they're doing nothing. Like no one's doing anything.
Yeah.
Except for traumatizing the family and the people outside and just fucking up everyone's life.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous.
Those guys that they kept telling to go back down. There's another like great little social commentary beat there where those two are like locals who are working with the U.S. military as
Yeah.
translators.
Mhm.
And the way that the soldiers are constantly,
They're collateral.
though it's worse than
Worse than
collateral.
that,
they're
yeah.
they're like the canary in the coal mine. They send them out first. They make
Yeah.
them stay on the doors where it's more dangerous. When they're about to load them into the
Yeah.
vehicles, they send the local
It's the
translators
human
out
shield
first.
thing.
Yeah, human shield. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
that thing. If I imagine the movies that my conservative family members would watch as I was growing up, it feels like it was just for them to sit down and watch something like this. It feels like they would be humiliated to have to acknowledge that like this
Right.
is how we conduct like actual warfare.
Yeah, I
You
think
know?
that's the point of the comedy too. Like with the
Yeah.
constant screaming is to like really take away the bravado, that like masculinity, the like cool factor.
Oh
to
yeah,
rip
they do
that
a great
away.
job of that.
Yeah, and like even when the next step's the whole show of force thing, which is when they have like a plane fly overhead and whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it looks flashy, and it hurts the U.S. soldiers just as much as them. Like that's what
That's a
gives
good
Will
point.
Poulter the concussions.
And when I first heard the term like show of force,
Yeah.
I was thinking, oh, they're gonna do something that makes like the soldiers themselves look like you can't like fuck with them. But they just use a big ass plane.
Yeah.
Like it's not like it's just that's a cheat. Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
exactly.
they're-
Yeah. They're showing that they have the ability to do like force, even though they're not actually.
Yeah.
Because it's really important that it's really quick, so like it's like missable. But before they do the show of force thing, the soldiers are asking for like real air support, like to like bomb the
Right.
area, and that gets denied.
Right.
So it's really crucial to the social commentary that the soldiers are like begging for support from their superiors, and they say no, but we'll do this phony show of force
Yeah.
that doesn't actually accomplish anything. which is exactly what these soldiers are doing in this house. They're there as a show of force.
Yeah.
They're there to just like impose their might, show off their weapons or whatever,
Yeah.
and actually do nothing. They are a show of force, just like the plane going overhead.
Yeah, just the way they take over that home, and then the way, like, in the beginning when they're just, like, Cosmo Jarvis, he's just, like, watching people out the window with the sniper and just constantly training it on, like, everyone there.
Yeah,
From
everybody.
young
Yeah,
kids
yeah.
to women, and then men, like, just anyone. And it's like, oh my God, you're pointing a fucking, you could end any one of their lives, and,
Yeah.
like, you're doing that. We're being shown this on purpose, like, you know, just that power that they have
Yeah.
to do fucking nothing there.
Yeah.
It's insane.
For like no provocation. And like he didn't even use the sniper rifle.
Yeah, he
Like
didn't.
even when they do get attacked, he never gets a shot off. It's again
Yeah.
showing how like ineffective they are too.
Like in these things that they're supposed to be trained on and everything, every single thing, it's like they just prove to be not only inefficient but just laughably
Yeah, they're
horrible.
constantly screwing up.
Like the-
yeah, the guy goes
the
to
guy-
inject morphine and he stabs it into his own thumb while the guy's screaming in agony.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, let me
Yeah,
inject you
they
with-
can't get the tourniquet on, so he has to kneel on the guy and cause more pain. Like they're constantly hurting each other way more.
Yeah. Being so close, like that one guy who gets his torso ripped from the lower half of his body. He's just there,
Yeah.
and you know that one guy is just staring at that after
Yeah.
the explosion. It's just they're face to face with their own, like, you know, the brutality that's being inflicted onto themselves for what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they just keep screaming in pain. And then that one character with the leg issue, where he's screaming and, you know, gets trampled the whole
Yeah,
time and whatever.
like a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was humiliating
Yeah.
to have it focus so much on that guy and how much pain he was in. And then I might have been misseeing it. I know you didn't see it. But the way they kept, like, tearing up his pants,
Yeah.
I think I saw his dick.
Yeah.
And, like, and just to do that, like, I'm hoping I'm remembering it right. It's so ridiculous. I've just never seen, first of all, that amount of, just the wounds that a soldier has, and then seeing his crotch right there. And then just adding to the humility of that,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because,
Yeah.
like, oh, your junk's pulled out now, too. And, like, that's crazy, because people are going, oh, this is going to give conservatives such a thing to root for these.
People
it's
said
like,
that, yeah. No, not at all.
It's like, that's embarrassing if that's the case.
You know, they accomplish absolutely nothing. The other thing is, like, with all the chaos going on, you never see... I think there's one time where you see one of the, like, enemies get shot.
I was going to mention
A
that
single
earlier.
time. Otherwise, you never see, like... The Americans never even land a shot. They're constantly shooting, like, out of frame. And then they go, like, oh, we have to back up. We have to retreat. We're going to go over a run. They never get anything done.
That surprised me so much, and I kept meaning to bring that up because, you know, when we both went into it, we were like, oh, like, at least we know we're going to get some good, like, firefights and
Right.
whatever. And it's like, technically, yeah, like, we hear the shots, like, they're loud as fuck, very abrasive, but you don't really see them actually
Yeah.
getting into, like, it's not really very present, because really you're just watching them kind of just walk back and forth and
Yeah,
hide
they're just, like,
behind.
floundering around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like, damn, I expected more like tense firefights going on with like exchanging gunfire and seeing
Yeah.
a lot more people get shot, but no.
Yeah, you don't really see, like, you hardly ever see anyone get shot. I think it's, like, one time
Yeah,
where,
I
like,
think
the
so.
soldiers actually land a hit on somebody. I think it's only the one time that I can recall.
It's insane. Yeah, were they the only ones that got casualties?
Well, we didn't see, like,
Right.
when they're, like, shooting
That's
at the
true.
top of their own building, which is, again, very telling on the social commentary. Like,
That's so funny.
they've been hurting each other themselves the whole movie,
Mm-hmm.
and then by the end, they're literally saying, fire into our own building.
I
It's like,
couldn't believe when they
How
were.
can, I don't know how people can see that and not get... I think it's saying nothing. Like, come on, fire into our own building, our own big guns, shoot at ourselves, and you don't see any commentary there.
I get
Come
so
on.
mad because it's like you want to shake people and be like,
Yeah.
think about it. But no, it's like a lot of people go into it with their minds made up, so they don't.
Yeah.
It's so strange. It's like, to me, I see certain things where I'm just like, you couldn't get more in your face about it
Yeah.
without being, just turning to the camera and saying, this is
Right.
bad.
Right. Exactly.
So it's astounding.
Oh, but I wanted to get into one of the other social commentary focuses of this movie, which is like obviously related but a little bit different. I started talking about it when we were talking about the show of force part.
Right.
But I think another big part is it's not just commenting on the U.S. military's role in the Middle East. It's also commenting on and really harshly criticizing the way that the U.S. military, like machine, is so indifferent to the actual lives of its own soldiers.
Yeah.
But specifically while placing so much more focus and care on the hardware, the money at stake. That was such a through line throughout the movie that kept coming up.
Right.
So the one I mentioned was they ask for air support and they go, no, it's like too expensive, but we'll fly a plane over real quick.
Yeah.
Another one is they ask for a medevac and they send one and the IED goes off and the vehicle retreats without rescuing any of the hurt people.
Yeah.
When they ask for the next medevac, over the radio you hear them go, it's too dangerous for our tank, whatever it was called, the Jerry or Johnny or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
It's too dangerous for our vehicle. So you have to stay there in this dangerous situation because
right.
we're not going to risk this machine that we spent $1 billion on or whatever.
Insane. Yeah.
And then it comes up again, my favorite instance. This is the I think the third and final time that it came up that I noticed. My favorite one though is, and it's two scenes, and the two scenes like they build on each other. The first one is when Cosmo Jarvis's character is in the street unconscious, and I thought he was dead for a long time. All the other soldiers retreat inside, and he's just left there because they don't think he's dead. It's only the one guy, the radio guy, who I think is the stand-in for Ray Mendoza specifically, by the way. He's the only one who goes out there on his own and drags the guy in, and it's only after like a long time. Like he was left out there for a while, right?
He was.
And he's on his own, and he's saying like, guys, help me carry him, and nobody helps him until he's like got him all the way back and all that, right? So that's the first scene. The second scene is when they're getting ready to leave, and they realize, oh, there's a sledgehammer that we left out on the street. And an entire squad of guys go out in formation with covering fire to damn near the exact spot where Cosmo Jarvis is.
Yeah.
And the one guy had to go on his own and painstakingly drag him. Now an entire squad goes out to rescue the sledgehammer.
It's so funny. I remember when that happened, I was just so confused.
Yeah.
Like the absurdity of it had me confused at what was even happening.
Yeah.
Because I was like, there's no way.
That is how much more of an emphasis.
Yeah.
Like they kept using the word gear. Like, oh, there's some gear in that room. We got to get the gear from there and the gear from there. It's showing so clearly how much more the priority is on the gear versus the human life.
It's very
They put a higher dollar amount on. They go, oh, the person's replaceable. That sledgehammer, we can't let the Iraqis get hold of that.
We can't, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's so fascinating because we already know when we critique the army and everything, we know that people are treated as disposable.
Yeah.
But when you put it so close together with how we treat the tech and where all the money
to
is
look at it in
going,
like a materialistic and monetary sense. Yeah.
it really drives it home.
Yeah.
Because, like, you can easily, see just from living every day how little we care about veterans when so consistently for decades conservatives are always go, oh, like, we support our troops and everything. But yet, in a lot of places I've been, and I'm sure you too, when you notice homeless people, a lot of the homeless are veterans.
Yeah.
And, I always bring up when I was in Savannah, Georgia, they have those giant Confederate monuments in the parks, and that's where all, like, the homeless vets would be. And it's just like, like, we're prioritizing, like, upkeeping this, like, all the gentrification because, we value the profits and where we put money instead of the people that are living on the street.
Yeah.
And then, all the problems with soldiers coming back and having very high rates of suicide and PTSD. And we, as a society, we pretend to care,
Yeah.
But then we just go, oh, like, we salute you and everything, and then we, like, move on. It's just so sad.
Yeah, it's like the old George Carlin bit about how Republicans only care about unborn babies, and then once they're born, they go fuck them until they turn 18, and then they send them off to war, and then they say fuck them again.
Yep, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's like, people fighting for the cause that we send people out for. It's evil, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, but you gotta look at how it's so clearly set up to take advantage. Like the U.S. and the country sees, like, from the beginning, people as disposable.
Yeah.
So they treat them that way from the beginning. It's like, oh, you're poor. Like we don't care that you're poor until we can use you, and then you can fuck off and die or whatever.
Yeah, it sees like the local Middle Easterners as like insects, and the U.S. soldiers as like a can of pest spray to be used up and then disposed of.
Yeah, it was so telling to me, like, already the way that they were setting everything up, it was, giving me a very clear message. But the end, when it was leading into propaganda territory, because, based on memory, we're going to see the
and
real
then,
people.
like, thanks to the Bushmasters, you never let us down or something like that.
And it's like a little aggravated that was there, but
Yeah.
then you get to the blurred out faces of the family in that
Yeah.
portrait, and it's like, oh, that's a really good way
It's
to
a really sobering way to
Yeah.
like ease out of the like.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's a dash of the like. Not even full-blown patriotism, but just a
Yeah.
dash of like the fraternity of the soldiers coming
it's
from
like,
the
oh.
Mendoza side, probably, and then you focus on the family of the locals as the last thing you see,
The last thing.
both in the narrative and in the like meta, like real world footage that you see also.
Yeah, and it really focuses on how we know these people that we're basing it off of, their memory and everything. We have their faces,
Right.
but then
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
It's like we don't even have their memory. They don't have their memory because
Yeah, they
their
don't.
lives have been destroyed. Yeah.
Yeah, just everything. Like, we don't know how to find these people.
Yeah.
We don't know if they're alive or dead.
Yeah.
Nothing. You just have these, like, the memory of this family that definitely existed at one point.
Yeah.
And now we don't know because the war was so just brutal towards
Yeah.
people. Like, it's just...
It also shows that like
Yeah.
there's always that claim that it's meant to help the locals, and it's such bullshit.
Oh, I remember being told that from such a young
Yeah.
age of, like,
Yeah,
oh,
they tried to tell me that in school. And it's like, how? In what way are we doing that?
I know, because they always say we're spreading democracy.
Right.
What does that mean? It's all based on memory, all of that, like the gang's all back together, and the leg in the street.
Right.
Back with the leg.
Yeah.
My favorite actor. But they're focusing on that, and then you're just left with that family at the end there. It's just so fucking sad.
Yeah.
And it's a very with how that contrasts the emotions of what you were just seeing with, like, oh yeah, like, don't forget that, like, we've forgotten these people.
Yeah.
To go back to Civil War for a second, I was getting so frustrated because I was like, I've always seen people being critical of war journalism. I've seen people's takes on it. I've had my own thoughts pop up here and there, especially ever since, I took up an interest in just photography in general, and then getting into that. It's so, it's a lot, a lot to look at and a lot to learn about. And when I watched Civil War, I was like, I've never seen another movie make this kind of commentary in my life, and it feels like such a disservice to go, to look at everything and to just say it's nothing or apolitical. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know how...
Just because it's like a little more challenging than people were expecting.
Yeah.
It couldn't be boxed in the way that it seemed like it could. Yeah.
Yeah, because, like, it's such a big thing to take on with just the way we even treat journalism now, the consumption of media and the consumption of images we see from other countries that we are, involved in. Like, the biggest example right now is Gaza and everything. And you have to think, like, how many journalists has Israel killed? A lot,
Yeah.
like the most, I'm pretty sure, out of every war. Like
Right, yeah, it's not even a war.
It's
There's
not. Like, you know, the wars, they normally have an army on both sides. Journalists, they're putting their lives at risk, and sometimes, you know, a lot of the times in America and with the way we approach it, it gets into this like adrenaline high for a lot of people, and then you
Like Wagner Mora's character.
yeah, exactly. And then you look at what's happening right now, and just like that one, I want to mention her name. We should put it somewhere, like edit it. And then she passed away. She got killed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put her name on screen.
And she was killed with a couple members of her family.
Yeah.
And I remember reading something that she wrote. She wants it to be a loud death and not a quiet
Oh,
one.
yeah.
And it was just so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, it's been almost 2 years ever since that started, and movies like Warfare and Civil War, whatever, I feel like now is the time out of like our lifespans right now. Like, this is a really good time to be engaging with any art that has anything to say about war.
And yeah, and
Like-
with this one, people are saying like the opposite. They're like, now of all times, you're gonna make this movie.
Yeah, and it's like I could see it if it was being sympathetic, but it wasn't.
If it was what
Yeah.
it maybe could have looked like from the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it. At the same time, I think that should also exist beside movies like this. Like, we need more filmmakers that are able to say what they think about these things from their perspectives, from other people's perspectives. But
Yeah.
I don't think you should shoot down the ones that do exist, because then
Yeah.
then what do you have? Like, out of all of like our entire lives, now is the time to be concerned about, you know, people getting sent off to war
Yeah.
and everything like that. Very, like, I want to know how it works, and I want to know what the implications are, what our history is, everything. And just all those messages about what people have been through.
I think we're about ready to wrap it up.
Yeah. Is she going to get in? Hi. Pancake's making a cameo.
Yeah.
So don't get on the table. I want people to know everything is political. If you say it's not political, that's political.
So thanks for watching. Those are our many, many thoughts on Warfare. You can let us know what you thought about the film in the comments, but I mean, I don't really give a shit. You can comment it if you feel like it.
I care a little bit. I'll probably read it.
I probably won't read it, but Greta might. And maybe I will, I don't know.
I'll do the reading. I like thoughts on movies, especially when we're not immediately getting mad at each other for different opinions.
You can subscribe if you feel like it. There's a Patreon where you can support the channel.
You should
That
do
goes
that.
for this channel and my main channel, Brickwall Pictures, where scripted videos go. This is the home of unscripted conversational reviews like this and tier lists. Speaking of tier lists, I just put out an Alex Garland tier list where Warfare is included, along with all of his other films. So you can check that out if you feel like it.
So my Letterboxd is going to be mentioned in the description, but there's also, I have an art Instagram. I do illustrations and stuff like that. Sometimes I make my own little movie posters of things, like Burning of a
Yeah.
Sacred Deer. That was a fun one.
Yeah.
And I want to do more of those. But yeah, can leave that. It's necromancing with a K. And I think that's it. Yeah,
Cool.
that's it. Thank you.
Thanks for watching.
Thank-
Fuck off now.
We're going to go kiss now.